technique or process, how they might help facilitate that vital interaction.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Eric. Just if I can just circle back really quick and say, you know, I embrace the fact that we are the reconnaissance pull unit of modernization at times as the Fleet Marine Force. We should not expect every piece of gear that comes to us to be perfect and execute exactly the way the institution thinks it should. We owe that back to the institution, an understanding of how to employ it, the tactics, techniques, and procedures. The refinement for future requirements come from the warfighter. And if they don't, then we're probably wrong. So I don't have a problem with spending money to bridge the gap, to help the institution learn and refine requirements that may come later. Matter of fact, we have to, we don't have a choice, right? And so I agree with everything that General Sullivan and the team set up here, except to say that we should embrace the fact that you're not gonna always get the perfect solution, nor should we want it. We should wanna learn, refine, design, learn, and refine all the time, continuously. Allies and partners, I will tell you that from my perspective, and I operate in the Pacific right now, we don't do anything without our allies and our partners. We don't do anything that's not joint. And so I've learned over the years that if we're not joint, we won't win, and if we're not combined, we won't win. And we need to modernize alongside our allies and partners too, because they're modernizing every single day just like we are. So we need to find the convergence and then exploit it. And things like being able to sense for the Japan Self-Defense Force to fire, or them sense for us to fire our naval strike missiles, or the Philippines that are developing a coastal defense capability just like we have with the MLR, or a sea denial-like force, or the Taiwans that are developing the Littoral Strike Group, very closely aligned to our MLRs, and matter of fact being one of the most decisive forces right now on that island. We have to maximize relationships. We have to rehearse together. We need to become as interoperable as we can with our allies and partners. There's no reason why we don't have cross-domain solutions where they can see a COP and the same as I'm seeing my COP, or a SIP the same as I'm seeing my SIP. It's important. It's important as we scope and scale the future of the conflict to be able to gain decision advantage through interoperability is extremely important. So I will tell you right now that I'm sold hook, line, and sinker on allies and partners and joint, and more joint. And the capabilities they bring, in many cases, are better than ours. And so we have to fight our allies' systems alongside them and exploit opportunities that our adversary presents. So, yeah, I mean, we are all about it in the Pacific. And I think that's globally. I suspect everybody would say the same thing.
Yeah, thanks. I'll jump in just because as the part of the service retained MEF, we provide forces to Indo-PACOM, but we also have to pay attention to what goes on in all the other combatant commands. We spend a lot of time now providing forces down to SOUTHCOM, but also to CENTCOM and EUCOM. We were just out in cold response working with our NATO allies, the Norwegians, the Swedish, and the Finns. We had a great opportunity to do the furthest experience across the staff with Maven Smart System. We ran our old systems and we ran Maven Smart System simultaneously just because we hadn't run it at that scale before. It was a great set and rep. We learned a lot. We'll continue to move away from the older systems and move more towards systems like Maven Smart System. But when you make those decisions, you got to make sure you're doing it in relation to what everybody else is doing, whether they're not just coalition, but joint partners. Earlier, Sergeant Major Loftus mentioned a 2MEF unit from 2nd Marine Division that deployed on short notice in support of CENTCOM, and they've done a tremendous job. But you know, the key in all the short fused preparation time we had was to make sure that when they got on the deck and they plugged in to the architecture that they could actually exchange data. And it worked. And as you know, our number one responsibility as Secondary Division is force generation for consumers and other combatant commands. But it's also to make sure, number two, from a C2 perspective, whether it's the division C2ing as a MAGTF headquarters, it's the regiment, it's the battalion, it's the companies, they have to not just fight underneath Secondary Division, they have to be able to plug in to any other MEF, any other regiment, any other joint partner. And so I think as we are fielding these newer systems, whether increasingly more software, we do experience some challenges. And as Kyle said, and I did mean to insinuate earlier that I expect the gear to be perfect when we get it. You're going to put it in the hands of the Marines, and then you're going to realize what it can really do. But whenever we field this new equipment, we're moving towards open architecture when it comes to C2 software. But even in cold response, we had some challenges with populating certain feeds through Geeks into Maven Smart System, where it still worked in Agile Client. And so as we're going towards open architecture, I think we're still going to have these challenges. And so, we don't technically have MOSs that are systems integrators yet in large numbers. But that's what, I find myself from a C2 perspective spending a lot of time doing, is figuring out, as we're plugging into a new architecture, how is it that you conduct this, integration so you can rapidly get up to speed and pass data.
Eric, I would just